Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padavrajacharya Aṣṭāṅga-yoga to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padavrajacharya Aṣṭāṅga-yoga to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Amanta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, it looks like we're on text 25. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 9th day of July, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. And we are on text 25 at the bottom of page 251. And the title of the chapter is Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Okay. Labante Brahma Nirvanam Rishiyakchi Nakalmashaha Chinna Dvaidhayatatmana Sarvabhuta Hiterataha Labante Brahma Nirvanam Vishayakshina kalmasha Chinna dvaidha yatatmana Sarva bhuta hite rataha Labante brahma nirvanam Vishayakshina kalmasha Chinna dvaidha yatatmana Sarva bhuta hite rataha Labante brahma nirvanam Vishayakshina kalmashaha Chinna dvaidha yatatmana Sarva bhuta hite rataha. Enjoy? Labante brahma nirvanam Vishayakshina kalmasha Chinna dvaidha yatatmana Sarva bhuta hite rataha. Okay, anyone online? Guess not. Labante achieve Brahma Nirvanam, liberation in the Supreme. Vishayaha, those who are active within. China Kalmashaha, who are devoid of all sins. Chinna, having torn off. Vaidhaha, duality. Yata Atmanaha, engaged in self-realization. Sarva Bhuta, for all living entities. Hite, in welfare work. Rataha, engaged. Translation. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Purport. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna-conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmiditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances to him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. Okay, just 1 second here. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so this phrase Brahma Nirvanam, which comes up again in the next verse and came up in the previous verse, Prabhupada defines as liberation in the Supreme. Now, what does that mean, liberation in the Supreme? Well, nirvana, as you may have heard, I'm sure it's an English word by now, it's probably in the English dictionary, is usually associated with the Buddhist discipline, and it usually indicates voidness. It means like we'll merge into the bliss of non-existence kind of thing, nirvana. But in its original context, It's basically meaning finished with all entanglement with the material world. And Prabhupada said Brahma Nirvana means because of one's absorption in Brahma, in pure spirit. If you look back a few verses, sorry, to text 21, what do we find? This is this goes with text 22, and how the realized soul enjoys. The last phrase or quarter of the verse, Sukham Akshayam Ashnute. You notice that? That means enjoys unlimited happiness, endless happiness. So how is that? Sab Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, because he's always linked in yoga to Brahman. Now what is that Brahma? By concentration in Brahman, the supreme Brahman. Krishna is known as Para Brahman. You see? We're also Brahman. It basically means pure spirit. So we ourselves are pure spirit. We're very minute, but that's our nature. And we never get destroyed. We never were born, you know. We are eternal. But because we're encased in matter and we were absorbed in relation with matter, we've lost our spiritual nature and our spiritual consciousness. So Krishna consciousness means reviving that original spiritual consciousness and in relation to the Supreme Brahman. So just to go back to text 21 on page 248, which started this series. Vayasparshe swasaktatma vindajatmana yat sukham sab brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. So the word sukha means happiness appears twice in that verse. So here's that Brahma yoga yuktatma. A liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. That's the Brahma Yoga Yuktatma. The Atma, the soul, is linked in yoga, in this case the devotional service, to Brahma, to Supreme Brahman, to Krishna. And therefore he can enjoy unlimited happiness, as opposed to the happiness described in the next verse. Yehi sangsparjita boga dukkha yonaya evate adyantamanta kote anateshu ramate buddhaha. An intelligent person does not take part. Now the translation may be a little different there, in the old, but this is the revised translation, text 22. An intelligent person does not take part in pleasures which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the sources of misery and have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So this is a strong contrast between sangsparshaja boga. Boga also means enjoyment, but it's reserved for sensual enjoyment, basically. And sukham akshayam ashnate. Sukham akshaya means unbreakable happiness, unlimited happiness, if you look in the word by words for text 21. So this is the choice we need to make. If we gain faith that there is a source of happiness and a source of life, that it has nothing to do with this body and nothing to do with all the things that we're involved in our conditioned state. In other words, there's a spiritual plane, there's a spiritual state of consciousness in which happiness is not a flickering thing. It doesn't have limits. You know, it's not limited by time. You can enjoy relating to Krishna forever in an ultimately ever new way in the spiritual world. It's not hackneyed, you see. So that's our real life. The life that we're leading now is a distorted, it's probably called a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And we get to chapter 15 at the beginning, Krishna gives a wonderful analogy as an upside down banyan tree. You remember that one? If you're standing by a very calm lake and there's a tree growing on the other side of the lake, on the bank, say, and the sun is up and you can see the reflection, what do you see? It's upside down, right? The root of the tree is at the top, and then so this world is like that. It's perverted. For instance, what is Krishna's most famous pastime? The rasa dance, right? He dances with thousands of gopis, expands himself, middle of the night. Many of them are married, but he's still dancing with them, you know. So it sounds like it looks like, well, this is very immoral, isn't it? No, but that's only because we're comparing it to this world. In this world, it is immoral, you see. But in the spiritual world, because it's all based on pure love, and there's also this they're actually dancing with them in their spiritual bodies, you know. So they're at home sleeping next to the husband. But the point is that that pure exchange of love is perverted in this world until we get, you know, dancing with other men's wives in this world, you know, and it's so immoral and harmful. So this is the category. Now he continues with this. Shaknoti avyak sodhum prakshidir vimokshana. Before giving up, this is text 23, before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses for sense gratification and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So the only way to do that is to get the higher taste of pleasure in Krishna consciousness, which is on a completely different plane. People can understand what it is. But if you chant Hare Krishna and you awaken this and you do active service, you begin to realize there's this great joy in serving Krishna, in glorifying Him, in Sankirtan and everything else like that. And that happiness is not, you know, even if you're lying down, you know, you're very sick or you're on the point of death, you can still do that in your mind because it doesn't depend on your senses, you see. Now, as long as we have our active senses and the ability to use them, then we need to engage them in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise they'll be engaged in Maya. But at a certain point in life when that's not possible, then the mind, which has been purified and is hankering to do that service, you're thinking of the servant, you're thinking of the deity, you're thinking of Krishna, and hopefully there are people, devotees nearby who are reminding you of Krishna, you see. Then you can be very peaceful at the point of death, because you know, first of all, I'm not going to die. The body is just like an old coat. Eventually, this time is to give it up. But if I really want to keep serving Krishna in this way, then I can keep doing that in my spiritual body, where there's no time, there's no passage of time, and there's no old age, disease, and death, and there's no birth. So that's the contrast he's giving here. Now, we did up to 225, right? Okay. So he's continuing with this theme of Brahma Nirvana. You see that text 25? And it also appears in the next verse also. And it simply means, you know, it's liberation in the Supreme. We're liberated from the prison house of the material world, which is we're imprisoned because of our own material desires, but you're liberated from that. And so that Nirvana means finished. When Prabhupada something Nirvana means finished. Your entanglement in this world is finished. But it doesn't mean that you're finished. You continue. You can't be finished. But you're in your spiritual body and you're relating to the Supreme Brahman. So you're in Brahman relationship, with all of its details. See, if you know Prabhupada's pranam mantra, he wrote it, by the way. And the line goes, Nirvishesha shunyavadi paschata deshatarine, which is he's dealing with this. Because Nirvishesha means no details. This is the impersonal Brahman, where there's no varieties, you see? It's simply pure light, pure spiritual light. Now there's something called Brahmananda, which is a spiritual happiness. But compared to Premananda, it's like a little drop of water compared to an ocean. But still, that Brahmananda is much greater than sense gratification. So you can enjoy it for some time, but the problem is, there's a beautiful verse spoken by the Devas, the demigods, when they're praying to Krishna in the womb. You know, if you know the Krishna Leela, he was born in a prison house. His mother, Devaki, and the father, Vasudeva, were in prison because Kamsa had got an omen, you know, that the 8th son of Devaki would kill him. So he was about to kill her, and Vasudeva was able to pacify him and say, look, Devaki's not going to kill you, you know. So whatever son is born to her, I'll deliver to you, and you can do whatever you want, you know. So because Vasudeva was known for truth-telling, that Kamsa, he agreed to that. And it was all self-centered why he agreed to it. Well, my name will be sullied. You know, she's my sister, really cousin sister, you know, on a wedding day, and I'm going to chop off her head. That's not good for my PR, you know. So I'll avoid that, and then I'll just kill the little babies when they come, which he did 6 in a row. But of course he couldn't kill Krishna. So that nirvishesha shunyavadi, the shunyavadi is specifically the Buddhist idea. Shunya means void. The ultimate is void. And that's their conception of nirvana, you know. But neither the voidness nor the merging into Brahman will fully satisfy the soul. Because we have form. We have an eternal spiritual form. And we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. But none of that is possible in the Brahman effulgence. You see, that's just a preliminary realization of the absolute truth. What is that? Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamannayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdite. Those who have seen the truth, the knowers of the truth, tattvavadis, they declare that the supreme absolute truth is understood in three phases: the Brahman, the Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So the soul can never be fully satisfied in just in Brahman realization. You see, even super soul realization. You need to reestablish or reawaken our relationship with Bhagavan, who's full with all six opulences and pastimes and qualities and everything we know about him. So that's the idea. And ultimately, we're coming to the last verse, which is a key verse and probably the most famous verse here. And it all comes back to bhakti as usual. Okay, so we did 25, right? Let's do 26. Continue with Brahma Nirvana. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito Brahma Nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Purport. Of the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all. The Srimad Bhagavatam 4.22.39 confirms this fact as follows. This is a teaching of Maharaj, the four Kamaras to Maharaj Prithu. This is a wonderful, probably would quote this verse often. Yat pada pankacha palasa vilasa bhaktya karmashayam krititam udgatayanti santaha tadvanna matayo yatayo pirundha srokroganastamadanam bhajavasudevam. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. Close quote. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desires, despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. That's a Brahma Nirvana. Owing to his complete knowledge in self-realization, he always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example of this, Darshana Dhyana Sangsparshar Matsya Kurma Vahangamaha Svanyapatyani Pushnanti Tataham Api Padmaja. By vision, by meditation, and by touch only do the fish, the tortoise, and the birds maintain their offspring. Similarly do I also, O Padmaja. Padmaja is Brahma, so that's Krishna speaking. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. He does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. So, the tortoise, anyway, there's a little conflation of the tortoise and the turtle. You know the difference between tortoises and turtles? What's that?
Well, tortoise is land-based, turtle is water-based.
Exactly. Huh? Oh, they both can pull their limbs in.
No, turtle can't.
Turtle can't?
Cannot.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to try to confirm that. I'm going to ask Siri. Well, but anyway, the tortoise is land-based, but so it's really the turtle and the birds maintain their offspring. In any case, it's a wonderful analogy that just by consciousness, so much is done. Just by focusing your mind and by always remembering Krishna, you completely eradicate all sinful reactions, all attraction to this world, because all your attraction is for Krishna. That's why everything that we do, there's a wonderful verse. What does it say? Smartavyak satatam Vishnu vismartavyon jatuchit. Sava vidin shedaksyo etayoreva kinkara. Which means, Smartavyak satatam Vishnu, to always remember Vishnu. And Prabhupada gives a translation of this verse. He says, and Krishna is the origin of all Vishnu forms. In other words, the original Vishnu is Krishna, so it means Krishna. Always remembering Krishna, and never forgetting him. Everything we do in the practice of bhakti, sadhana bhakti, is a servant of these two principles. Is meant to help us remember Krishna and never forget him. And it's very important to come to that point of emphasizing of never forgetting him. Because remembering Krishna, all right, we can do it. I'll chant a couple of rounds, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. But how do you keep remembering Krishna when you stop chanting? You see, that's why we're not supposed to stop chanting. So that constant remembrance of Krishna completely purifies the soul. See, that's really there's a beautiful verse I'll share with you. Some of you may have heard this already. At the end of the Bhagavatam, there's 12 cantos, and this is in either, there's 13 chapters to 12th canto, to the last canto, and this may be in the 13th or the 12th, but it's right near the end of the 12th canto. So there's 8 verses describing the glories of remembering Krishna. I call it the Krishna Kathashtaka, because the whole thing is dependent on chanting and hearing. That's where the remembrance comes from, see? So at the end of the 8 verses, the last verse is like this. Avismati Krishna Padada Vindayo. Avismati Krishna Padada Vindayo. Chinotya Badrani Chashangtanoti. Sorry. Chinotya Badrani Chashangtanoti. Sattvasya Shuddhim Paramatma Bhaktim Jnanam Cha Vijnana Viraga Yuktam. Which means constant remembrance of Krishna. Avismriti means not forgetting. We had to change. I'm an editor, so we had that. I recently read it, this might be a year ago now, and I realized we had remembrance of Krishna. But no, it's more than remembrance of Krishna. It's never forgetting Krishna. Constant remembrance of Krishna. We adjusted that. Constant remembrance of Krishna give these following benefits. Avismriti Krishna, but the lotus feet of Krishna, Bhadavindayo. Chinotya Badhani. First, it destroys everything inauspicious in your life. Chinotya Badhani, Shashang Tanoti. And pours down good fortune. The word Sham is the first syllable in the word Shankara, which is the name for Shiva, right? Shankara means to bring or cause. Sham is good fortune, welfare, everything, good that can happen to you. So, Sham Tanoti, it expands your good fortune and destroys everything inauspicious in your life. Chanotya Buddhani Chashangtanoti Sattvasya Shuddhim. It purifies your existence, which is so important, which is the result of austerity. But here, the austerity of constantly remembering Krishna. Sattvasya Paramatma Bhaktim, and nourishes your devotion to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Paramatma Bhaktim, which is characterized by Jnana, Vijnana, Jnanam Cha Vijnana, and Vairagya. These 3 qualities: knowledge and realized knowledge, probably scientific knowledge. In other words, I have knowledge that water is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen, and I even know the formula H2O. There's two molecules of hydrogen to each oxygen. I know that, but I haven't realized it. That's why they want you to perform the little when you're in chemistry class. Actually, do it right. Do it. So it comes out. So that's Vijnana. When you take the hydrogen and the oxygen, put it together, oh, there's water, okay. Otherwise, it's just book knowledge. So that's the difference between jnana and vijnana. So just see, the constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet destroys everything inauspicious in your life, and pours down good fortune upon you, and nourishes your, and purifies your existence, your consciousness, and nourishes your bhakti to the Supreme Soul, which is characterized by knowledge, realized knowledge, and detachment from everything material. So you see how valuable it is. So everything we do, chanting Hare Krishna, worshiping the deity, honoring prasadam, studying Bhagavad Gita, is meant to increase and deepen our remembrance of Krishna. That's the idea. So this verse here, let's go through the yat pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. So the this is not such a detailed translation. Pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. I swear, there's a lecturer probably he keeps quoting this first line, and he's relishing because what the palasha vilasa bhaktya, with the devotion, you're enjoying the spiritual pleasure of remembering and worshipping the petals of the lotus feet of Krishna. Pada pankaja palasha. What is pankaja? Who can say what pankaja means? Do you know? Yeah, but what's the origin? Pankaja, born in the mud, right? Growing in the mud at the bottom of the lake or the river like that. There's like 20 different, I look in the dictionary, there's 20 different words for lotus in Sanskrit. It's very fun. So, okay, so those who are enjoying the spiritual pleasure of devotedly remembering and serving the lotus feet of Krishna, what happens? Karmashayam, your desire to perform karmic activities, which are like knots, kvaditam udgatayanti. Those knots are untied or cut, you see? Your attachment for enjoying sense gratification is destroyed. For the santas, it's the same word as we're sitting in San Diego. You go a little north to Santa Rosa. What are all these Santas in San Francisco? What is that Santa? What is it? Saint. It's all the word for saint, right? So here's the very word, Santa, at the end of the second line, in the verse in the purport. So for the santas, the devotees, the hard knots of attachment to enjoying material life are completely cut. Udgatayanti. But not so for those who are riktamatayo. Riktamati means those whose minds are devoid of bhakti. They may be transcendentalists, impersonalists or yogis, or what. But if they don't have any bhakti for the lotus feet of Krishna, then they can't overcome the hard, long-held desires for sense gratification. It may be very subtle, like we have Durvasa Muni, a very accomplished yogi. He had so many mystic powers. He obviously did a lot of austerities. But he was very proud. He wanted to be honored. And this Ambarish, he's just an ordinary king. He's getting all this honor just because he's, chanting Hare Krishna and serving Krishna all the time. So he couldn't, he became actively inimical toward him. And he tried to kill him by the kritya, by the flaming, anyways, the whole story. And he was defeated. Ambarish didn't do anything, but the chakra came to destroy this kritya and go after Durvasa. And he didn't have the fearlessness that Prahlad had or Haridas Thakur. The devotees really can show this incredible indifference to dying because they won't die. They'll go back to Godhead. Ambarish just stood there as this kritya was coming at him. He didn't flinch, he didn't run, he didn't cry out, he didn't do anything. He's chanting Hare Krishna. But Krishna protected him through the chakra. But Durvasa wasn't on that plane. He started running. He was scared. It's actually very auspicious to be killed by the chakra, right? That's not him. He went to Shiva. I can't help it. He went to Brahma. I can't do anything. It's Krishna's chakra. So he goes to Vishnu, and then he says, "Please, withdraw your chakra." And Vishnu says, "I can't do anything either. I'm under the control of my devotees." If you want to be saved, you got to go back down to Ambarish, which he did and offered his dandavats. Of course, Ambarish called off the chakra. So this is riktamatayo. Their minds are devoid of bhakti. Although striving very hard, they can't stop the waves of material desire in their minds. Therefore, worship Vasudeva. The last two words, Bhaja Vasudeva. That's pretty simple. And Prithu, of course, is a great devotee. He took this to heart. Okay, let's go on. Maybe do these last two here before the last verse. Because that verse we'll save for next week. Sparshan kritva bahirbayangs. Chakshus-chayavantare bhuvoh. Pranapano samalkritva. Nasabhyantadacharino. Yatendriya mano buddhir. Munu moksha parayanaha. Vigatecha bhayakrodho. Yaksada mukta eva saha. Shutting out all external sense objects. Now he's describing now a meditative position, yoga, which will be detailed in the next chapter. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Purport. Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme, so that's the Brahma Nirvana that he's been describing. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instructions to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of mysticism or yoga known as aṣṭāṅga-yoga. So this is kind of setting up the next chapter, which Arjuna will ultimately reject, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So Prabhupada doesn't define those, so I'll go through them real quick. Yama, niyama, the don'ts and the do's. You have to stop doing all kinds of nonsense before you begin. So there's the don'ts and then there's the do's. Same thing with, anukulyana sankalpa pratikulya savarjanam. It's, to accept the favorable things and stop doing the unfavorable things. This is in any discipline. So that's the yama, niyama. Restrictions and then the don'ts and the do's. Asana means the sitting posture, of course. Krishna describes in detail, back erect, Pranayama, control of the breath. Pratyahara, withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. Dharana, concentration. Dhyana, meditation. And Samadhi, full absorption. This is the classic eightfold system. In the 6th chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and at the end of the 5th it is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell by the pratyahara process in yoga. That's the withdrawal of the senses from the sense object. And then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed lids. Now, this is, what did he say? Keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows. Okay, that's up here. And then concentrate on the tip of the nose. That's down here. So how could you do both, Because it's nasagra. Does the nose begin here? Agra means beginning. I think the nose begins here because it's the two eyebrows. Anyway, it's a difficult process. I tried it and couldn't do it very well. Okay. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely because then there is the hazard of being attracted by sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the up-moving and down-moving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. That's Brahma Nirvana. This yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger and thus feel the presence of the Supersoul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. After giving a little summary of the difficult process, the aṣṭāṅga-yoga. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than by aṣṭāṅga-yoga. And even we'll find Arjuna, after the detailed explanation, says, I can't do it. The famous verse, Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavadvidham tasyaham nigraham manye vayu ivatudaskadam. my dear Krishna, I can't do this process. The mind is very flickering, chantalam himana Krishna, and very obstinate and powerful, pramati, balavad, dridham. I think that trying to control the mind by this process is like trying to control the wind. You can't control the wind, hurricane wind. So Krishna, first he says, it's difficult, but it's possible by practice, And then Arjuna says, okay, well, what if I fail? Well, nothing is lost. In your next life, you'll be born in a nice yogi family or a wealthy family and pious family, like that. But finally, Arjuna, he said, I don't think so. So Krishna, okay, don't worry. Yogi nama bisarvesham madgate natadatmana shraddhavam bhajate yomam samay yukta momenta. Of all the yogis, the best yogi is one who's always thinking of me within himself and worshiping me with great and transcendental love. This is my opinion, Krishna says. I've kind of gotten away from this. This is my opinion, which Prabhupada would use. If you look up opinion in the dictionary, it means something that's, not really supported by empirical evidence, but it's just my idea. But that's not what Krishna said. Rather that I considered him such a yogi to be the best of yogis. Anyway, so we'll save this text 29 for Monday. But in the meanwhile, we have a little time, so I'd like to share a poem. Some of you may not have heard of. Those of you who have heard it, maybe have forgotten it. But I was chanting it today, and I just think because I've been invited to go up to the not Ratha Yatra, but what is it? The Palanquin Yatra up in Laguna Beach in early October. And if you want to come, you're welcome. So I was thinking, I was just saying, well, how am I going to present? Because I'm going to be presented as a poet there, thinking. So I may just concentrate on this 8-verse poem. It's called the Kevala-aṣṭāṅga, and it's 8 verses written by a close associate of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the mid-19th century. He was a Goswami, I believe, and he actually wrote 100 verses about the holy name. But it may have been Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but someone pulled out these 8 to make an aṣṭāṅga, you see. So here I'll do a little of Sanskrit, then I'll just revert to English. Madaram madarebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi harir namaiva kevalam. Now that last line is repeated in every verse and is taken from the famous Harir Nama Eva Kevalam verse from the Brihad Naradiya Purana, which more or less says, in this age of Kali, there's no other way to achieve perfection than chanting the holy name of the Lord. So this is what he says. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the Guru, he's the Father, he's the friend most true. And she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always chant and hear the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Now the next one is my favorite. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed in him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. So those are the 8 verses. So since there were 8 verses extracted from 100 verses, there's no 9th verse. The 9th verse is called the Palashuti, what you get, or what the benefit you get by meditating or chanting these slokas. So I wrote one, simple one. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Sri Hari, Sri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Sri Hari in ecstasy. So that's the Keval Aṣṭāṅga. And there's a lot in there, and I'm thinking that if I could go through and explain each verse, maybe that'll be my presentation. But we still have a little time, so there's time for one or two more. So this is again on the holy name. This is written by Raghunath Das Goswami. Radheti nama navasundara mugdam, Krishneti nama madhurabhatagara dugdham, Savakshanam sadabhiraga himena ramyam, Kritvata daiva pimame vasane chudarte. Now before I begin, you should know that this Hare Krishna mantra really is a combination of names for Krishna and Radha. Radharani is the source, she's the original goddess of fortune. All the goddesses of fortune expand from her. So Hara is a name for the goddess of fortune, and Hare is the vocative. If you say, oh, goddess of fortune, it would be Hare. So we're actually addressing Radharani and Krishna, Radharani, Krishna, 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 Radha. And Rama can mean Balaram, or it can mean a name for Krishna. I mean, he is always filled with transcendental bliss, the source of all transcendental happiness. So that's important. So the way the translation of this verse is, an excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes. Such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet. Such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. So it's related, because the other one starts, Madhuram Madhura, sweet, sweet is my dear love. So of sweet things, the sweetest you will taste at any time. Radharani's name. So, one more quick one. This one is kind of the Hare Krishna movement, the whole philosophy in a nutshell. Every body dies. We each have a body. So every body dies. Nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. And here's an even a shorter one. Don't sin, you can't win. Love God, not the bod. Chant Hare Krishna. That would make a nice t-shirt. What do you think? There was one more. Oh yeah. Since pleasure is a dream, Krishna is supreme, the aim is prem, and the way is the name. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.